Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Lorette Nickel.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the first day of the AIMExpo. My name is Lorette Nickel, and I am so excited to be here. If you can hear the sound of my voice, we are on the disruptive thinking stage, and this is just local. So if you want to come over and watch the first panel, I would highly recommend come on over, grab a seat, because our kickoff session, this is going to be protecting and promoting Powersports. So I think the gang is ready. So what we are going to do, what we are going to see coming up right now is Sam Dantzler and Tony Gonzalez. They are the founders of Garage Composites, and they are going to be coming up here. They're going to be talking about the state of the industry, where we're going, where we're headed. So, gentlemen and Jolene, will you please come on up? Please welcome our Garage Composites team, and we are going to have Sam.
Thank you, Rick.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Sam is going to be our moderator.
Okay, have a seat, gang. Hey, Tony.
You.
I just want you to take note who's up there, who's not.
I was just up there, Sam.
I just want to set the tone. Just get that started. Hey, how you guys doing? Good. Thank you for joining us. We really appreciate it. Well, I guess we should introduce the panel. It's very rare that I get an opportunity to be on this stage with people from my own crew. So my name is Sam Dantzler. I am the president of Garage Composites. To my left, Tony Gonzalez. Tony, tell them what you do for us.
Tony Gonzalez. I'm the CEO of Garage Composites. Sam and I founded the company in 2015. Alive and kicking 10 years later.
Here we are. Yeah. Jolene.
Jolene, I am the Director of Dealer Development, so I oversee our 20 club groups, our training manager, and our operations team.
Schoolie.
I'm really surprised you didn't say run this clown to my left.
I wanted to.
Yeah. I'm Jordon Schoolmeester, or Schoolie, as a lot of you know me by. I'm the training manager at GC. Been here along for the ride for 8 years now, and yeah, excited to be here.
For those of you who don't know, Garage Composites, we don't do flooring for garages like everybody thinks we do. The composite is the book of data we collect on our dealers. We track the dealer financials. We run peer reviews, 20 club, 20 groups, whatever you want to call them. And we spin off training as a result of that. And I think when we talk about protecting and promoting the industry, we're in a weird moment right now, and I think it's really important to look at what we know does work and maybe some of the new thinking that is coming out of the last round of our 20 clubs. Another thing you need to know about us, for those who don't know us, we are dealer advocates. That's where we plant our flag. The dealers must come first. Everything else is downstream of the dealer. The OEMs, the consulting companies, the vendors, we get to make money when you guys make money. That is our position, and I want you to know that before we start answering some of these questions. Speaking of which, we came up with a couple talking points, but what we really want to do is hear from you. So you'll notice there are 2 microphones, one on each aisle. We want you to, if there's something you're like, I wonder if they're going to talk about that, or this thing over here is really a problem, please just stand up and go to the microphone. I'm going to do my best to contain these animals over here as we talk through some of this, but if I see you sitting there at a microphone, I'm going to come right to you in the middle of that. So please utilize that. Luke, where's Luke? Where did Luke go? Luke went back. We had a human microphone who's about 7 feet tall, but that's all right. I guess we have stationary ones now. So let's dive right in, you guys. Yeah?
Yep.
Okay, I'm going to play off this iPad if it'll let me. Anybody have anything you want to kick us off with, by the way? Any topic that's burning a hole in your brain? Like, hey, man, we really need to voice this out there.
You guys need to not be shy, too, man. Somebody get up and go to the microphone, and let's have some chit-chat from you guys first.
So, Schoolie, you were telling me a little bit about, in the notion of promoting and protecting, you were talking to me about the customer base and how there are different types of customers. You want to elaborate a little bit on that?
Yeah, the whole theme, obviously, with protect and promote is protect and promote the industry. And I got to thinking about it, and we had a phenomenal bump in riders, in participants, in awesome people coming into this industry through COVID. Well, we also had a giant bucket of people that were pre-COVID, giant, huge bucket in COVID, and now we have some people that are still becoming newer to the industry. So I look at those 3 different buckets of of people in our industry and how are we reaching out to them. I tell everybody, let's not ghost the new buyers. And what I see happening is we get so excited about all these sales, all these deals, all the new people we've brought in the industry, and we don't follow up with them. And I really want to stress how important that is to maintain them and what cadence should look like. And we'll talk about that a little bit later when we talk about digital leads and cadence, but really, we need to be reaching out to them, one, obviously, to make more sales, but two, just to maintain the relationship. I really want to stress to maintain relationships rather than just always asking for another sale. It's the relationship management in between that I think we need to be focusing on for all of those customers. The previous customers, the increasing customers we had, and the future customers coming in.
Tony, thoughts on that?
Yeah, I fully agree. You know, in a lot of my speeches, I use a quote from Charlie Munger that all the work and the best work is at your desk. And the fact of the matter is we're consistently watching for the front door, or I hear in our 20 clubs, peer advisory groups, you know, what are you doing for marketing? What kind of events? It's not that is not important. It's paramount to run a successful dealership, but what activities are we doing to, exactly like Schoolie said, enrich the relationship with the best customers that you already have? And the proof of concept is they've already spent money with you. And so you have a treasure trove that sits in your DMS and your CRM, and we would love to see people data mine that and get to work with the people that you already have.
It took him 8 minutes to say treasure trove. I was wondering it was coming. If you listen to the podcast, you know we track these things. Question? Probably, unless you're going to talk louder than that. I can guess.
I'm from Austin, and I just wanted to see your view on how can you create a better experience when you go to a dealership. What is your view on a new client, never bought a motorcycle?
Yep.
How can you create an experience from the dealership to make sure that that person is going to leave with a motorcycle, or if he's going to be an avid for the rest of his life or her life?
Okay, a new way to create an experience inside the store to ensure that that person goes home with a motorcycle and doesn't leave forever. Okay, you guys want to take one of that? Anybody?
I'll swing first.
Swing it.
It goes back to a lot what those of you that don't know us, those of you that do know us, we push relationship selling because that is really it. So I have some depressing news for you. There's no magic pill, there's no magic wand to just create an experience. What it really is it's the fundamental relationship building on the floor. We talk about welcoming them into your dealership as if it were your home. We talk about how do we create that relationship and trust. And what I see happen going into dealership after dealership and doing sales training is that we become very transactional in it. I'm just here for you to buy this bike and on to the next one. So really it's about slowing down and creating that relationship with the person in front of you. I can't stress enough, it's about slowing down and getting to know that person in front of you and having it be less transactional. And I think that's the first thing that we need to continue to get better at in the industry on creating that experience when you come in the front door. It's a relationship sell rather than just a transactional sell. And I know that's general and broad, but that's really where it starts.
Yeah, I think we can all opine on that. I have an iPad. I've got 2024 year-to-date metric data, like our composite, the average metric dealer, and the average Harley dealer too. So I'm going to use some of the data as times come up where I can pull from, and I'll hit you with some of the data after we get through the panel on that question right there. But that's a great answer. Anything to add to that, Jolene?
No, I agree with Schoolie, the relationship, and I think about it like like he said, treat them like a guest in your home, and they don't know your home, so just treating them that way. And I think when I think of a new client, sometimes they come in and they want to not look stupid, right? So they probably act more like they know a lot more than they do. And so just finding a way to communicate that without making them look stupid and kind of just like, yeah, you probably know this, but starting back at the basics.
Well, just on that note, how many times does a salesperson want to make sure the customer knows how smart he is? Just vomiting product knowledge about, well, you know it has inverted forks and blah, 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 right? And that's the whole making somebody feel stupid. So I think a lot of the answer to what you're saying is stop putting friction up and stop putting bad environments up. Let's get to neutral, and then we can build the experience on the backside of that. Tony, thoughts on that?
Do you have salespeople, or do you have advisors and consultants? because salespeople are there to sell. And I'm not necessarily interested in everybody in here selling. If you have an advisor in every one of your departments, somebody that can actually connect with that customer walking through the door, that can explain to them what's happening in the service drive, that can explain to them some of the coolest things that are going on with parts and accessories. Do you have a consultant, and do your people in your building treat your customers as a client in a consultative way? Whether it's just sending out a quick video of some new product because I know that this person here does this kind of riding and this is the latest and greatest thing, let me shoot you a quick 30-second video on it. That's consulting your customers and advising your customers, not just selling your customers.
Tony, who was the guy we had on the podcast from Subaru, CEO of Subaru?
Super Group?
Subaru,
Tom Dahl.
Super Group.
Super Group. I thought Dantzler was going off the rails again. Tom Dahl from Subaru.
That was one of the best podcasts we've ever had because that was the guy that created the Subaru tagline, Subaru is love. He tied the strongest of all human emotions to an inanimate object. How do we do that in your store so people would never, ever go anywhere else, right? And you sit here and you think about, what do people want to talk about? You all know the answer. When a customer walks into your store, what do they want to talk about? And cool stuff, but Bob, what do they want to talk about? Themselves. They all want to talk about themselves, and my answer is let them. Stop vomiting product knowledge at people and just say, tell me more, the greatest closing line ever created. No way, then where'd you go? Tell me more. And you went on vacation with your family, and where'd you go? And tell me more. And allowing that to happen and take the time to allow the person to feel like we're having this moment together, because hopefully, genuinely, you are. Now, what you're looking at is our composite. I'm not sure why it has that red haze to it. That might have been Cinnamon putting some red, some AIMExpo red into our composite. I don't know what that's all about, but we got a little bit of a hue. What we know is that, to Schooley's point, if you slow down and get what we call format, which we've proven this out over the years, we train it in our sales managers club, where your salesperson doesn't even begin to start to talk about motorcycles or power sports until they can tell family, occupation, recreation, motivation, animals, and teams. When they actually ask those questions and get to know somebody, don't look now, but those are the questions you find out, or the answers you find out at a barbecue, or when you're talking to somebody that you just met, or you're gonna find out a little bit about the things that are important to them, and they're gonna tell you. Family, and occupation, and recreation, animals, what's their favorite team? Here we are up against the Super Bowl. We've quantified that if you ask those questions before the sales manager ever looks at the deal, which is hard because sales managers want that deal, 2-point bump in new bike margin or used bike margin. So if I scroll down here, I pulled the Harley number up, but if you look over here, this 15.2 on the right hand, line 24 up there, that 15.2 is the average Harley Davidson new bike margin right now, okay? So you sit there and you think about, if I could have 2 more points of margin, what's a 17-point margin do for my bottom line? The quickest way to get there is to get format on every customer before you start talking about a motorcycle. And that, in a sense, will endear them to you because we're having to talk about me, the consumer, the thing I want to talk about the most, particularly if you're Tony. So that'd be our long-winded answer to that question. That's a good question.
Very long-winded. That's a Sam Dantzler answer. More Sam.
Boy, I deal with this. Tony, talk to me about marketing.
Talk to you about marketing.
Yeah, promote what we are doing to promote the dealership, industry, individual, salesperson, be creative.
Yeah, so when it comes to marketing, in our 20 clubs, we have a lot of, like I said, dealers talking about what are they doing in Facebook Marketplace? What kind of events are we having? What is your ad spend going to be this year? And what we're determining right now is if your experience, and to the point to the gentleman that asked the question, is not good in your store, and you're actually not being consultative and you don't have advisors, why are you spending so much money to bring more people in to have a bad experience? And to your point, they're not going to format them and they're not going to spend time with them and enrich the environment inside the 4 walls. You're literally just throwing money out the window. So our point is to look inside before you go and spend all this money to do things, but we're talking about enriching the environment of getting out there and riding with your customers. Like, when's the last time you went out on a ride? When's the last time that you were present at an event that you had. So look at your marketing and try and determine what exactly you're trying to do.
Follow-up thoughts on that, Schools?
Yeah, I feel like the creativity that some of your salespeople have, whether it's service advisors walking around, whether it's salespeople doing cool videos, I think there's so much more out there that should be considered marketing or advertising, whether it's the individual salesperson creating their own brand, or it's the sales manager doing quirky competitions on the floor. I just feel like there's a lot there that can come from within your team that doesn't have to be a giant marketing company. It doesn't have to be more website spend. It doesn't have to be. I'm not saying we shouldn't be strategic about those, but we really need to look at what cool creative stuff do you have that's already happening in your floor, and what are you doing with it? Are you posting it? Are you putting it on social media? Are you putting it on LinkedIn? Are you doing your own YouTube channel? What are you doing from within your own walls to promote your own brand, whether that's the individual or whether that's the team? That's what I would say.
Those are the fun videos to watch.
Yeah.
Right? When your staff turns the camera on themselves and does whatever it is on the first take and promotes that within reason, whatever it is, right? You got some jackwagons and
clothes
service
should be on.
As Max knows, the service guys are, a little shady from time to time. Let's go there. We're talking about marketing. We're talking about, Jolene, any thoughts on the marketing piece that we just touched on?
No, I mean, the only thing, like we talked about relationships, and I think the key is that you don't always have to be selling, because we are trying to build the relationship with our clients. So hopefully they've already been to us. That's why they're coming back. So let's just take the time to chat with them.
We're talking about marketing, advertising, and if you look down here, on line 71, stand by. I just lost the page. Advertising, 120 grand, line 66. If you see it at 120 grand, you spent 120 grand to get that door to swing open, or in the digital landscape. And I really want to focus on the digital piece of that right now. How are we handling digital leads? I think we can all agree that that is the gold mine, right? As we move forward, Polk Industry says 95% of all the customers' journey starts online. And the question is always like, well, where online? We get that, but where online? And thanks to Mandy and Rollick on your report that we were on stage talking about last year, we figured out where it starts. We figured out that it starts typically with the manufacturer's website, and then they go down the rabbit hole of YouTube reviews, and they want to hear from third-party people, and then they make it to your dealership website, right? So just take into consideration, if that were you, how far down the sales process are you before you put your hand up and said, hey, dealer, I'm interested. I went to the manufacturer's website, I watched all the YouTube videos, I went to your website, and then I put a hand up and I said, I'm interested. They are far down the sales process. That is a gold mine of a lead. I'm interested in, what's the one thing that dealers should be doing? Jolene, I'll start with you. What's the one thing dealers should be doing in the digital landscape that maybe they're not, to ensure we're getting the lead and potentially that appointment?
Well, as he said, we've been doing some 20 clubs, and we actually just had some meetings this past week, and one of the common things that I hear is not responding fast enough, or we respond with maybe AI or with a generic lead, and then we're not getting back to them quick enough. When you call someone, you get really, I know I do, I get really impatient waiting on someone to answer the phone. Do you think you're any less impatient when you send a lead in? So waiting 3-4 hours, as he said, if they're that hot of a lead, they don't want to wait that long. We need to get back to them quickly and often in the way they want to be responded to.
Speed to lead.
Speed to lead.
Speed to lead. Schoolie?
Yeah, I think one of the things that I see in the failure in that process is how we set appointments. Typically, a salesperson, whether it's through text or video, hopefully through video, or a phone call, we set appointments like this, and it usually comes out, hey, I'm Schoolie, I'll be here all day, every day, Thursday to Saturday, so stop by whenever you like. And that immediately tells me Schoolie's not important, he has nothing going on in his life, and he completely has an open schedule because he can't sell anything. So what I really want to push is I want to push that we have 2 or 3 appointments available. A study from Stanford Business said that if you set appointments on 15s and 45s of the hour, people are, 1, more timely, and they also will show because they remember it, it sticks out. So setting appointments, 15s and 45s, giving the customer 2 options, and maybe a third follow-up. Hey, I got Thursday at 4:15 if that works for you, or I got 10:45 on Friday, or I have a small window on Saturday from 1 to 3, or whatever it is. Be exclusive. It makes them have some urgency to it, and it makes you sound like you actually have a career and a life.
That's good. Tony, what did we miss on that one?
So Jolene was talking about time, speed to lead. Schooley's talking about the details in setting the appointment. And I was looking at this, and you and I discussed this several times, is how about just respond back? That's number one, is in our composite, all leads coming in. And I want everybody in here that came to the show that is obviously in the industry, and hopefully a lot of you are dealers. You pay a lot of money just for your phone system. When did phone systems, thousands upon thousands of dollars, and email and servers and all this stuff? You pay all this money for this stuff, right? And we set appointments by our composite, which has over 400 metric dealers putting into it, less than 20% of the time. My point is, to your report is, I think the number's 50%, Mandy. 50% of dealers don't even respond to the digital lead, anything that is not your front door. And so my point is it's crazy to think how you would have to tell your people when something comes in on the chat, something comes in via email, when you pick up the phone, you have to respond back. You got to say something. So it's responding back.
You're going to start there. Start with that lead. Lee, can you flip me onto the screen with my iPad, please, sir? Thank you. That's the digital traffic log, the average dealer, metric dealer in the country through 12 months out of the year with 2,945 total leads. And you can see 19.8% appointments set. I'm going to go back to think of how far in the process I am when I put my hand up and I say, I'm interested, and we can only get, who's playing bagpipes?
Yeah, we're bagpiping too. I was just like, what? Sam's about to grab a Guinness. Like,
I absolutely need a beer if I'm going to hear bagpipes. Feel free, anyone, to bring me one. I'd really appreciate that. The customer's not far down the process, and I'm just like, we can't get them in the door? 19% of the time we get them in the door? Like, why is that? And there's probably a litany of reasons behind that. Mandy, I'm going to use some of your data that you just sent me this morning from Lead Advantage, company that you've partnered with to pull some data from. 67% of email responses were sent within 15 minutes. So 67% of email responses were sent within 15 minutes. 29% of phone responses took over 2 hours. Email was fast as at 93%. How many of you in here, I want you to take your salesperson hat off, and I want you to put on your walking around town, family, whatever person hat back on. In this world, how many of you answer a phone call from a number you don't know? Yeah, Bob needs to make friends.
Bob's 88 years old, though. Of course he's answering the phone and falling for all the scams.
There's only so many people at bingo night, Bob. I get it. We don't answer our phones, but all this, we tell them, call them. And I guess my bullet point to all this is, what's the conduit? What is the method you're using? Is it a phone call? Is it an email? Is it a text message? Is it the 3-pack? That's what we call it, right? You want to do all 3 at one time because email's probably going to go to spam. Phone call's not going to get answered. Maybe the text message gets through. I also think it's interesting where text falls. When you sit here and you think about, if you're going to put a hierarchy together of the best way you would want to communicate with a customer, I would think your answer would be live in person on the showroom floor. I would think that's what you would want. Is that a fair statement? You want them live. And my question is, why? Body language, excitement, I can read them, we get to know each other. It's way easier to do all that if they're live and in person. So up here is that answer, live and in person. What's the worst way? The worst way is email. That is the worst way to communicate, to get to know somebody, to share the experience that we just talked about trying to create inside the store. Email's a hard way to really get that to convey. And if I'm sending a lead out to 5 dealerships, here's the email that says, here's what it is, and I have it, and when can you come in, or whatever it is, it's much more difficult to establish the relationship. Can we agree? Phone's probably somewhere, I don't know, in the middle, right? Interesting thing about text messaging, A lot of people think we have varying views on text messaging that, Connect will tell you that 98% of people or 94% of people want to communicate via text if there's a relationship. Once there's a little bit of this, then I'm happy for you to follow up with me on a text message. But communication via text on the first swing is probably down there closer to email because it's harder to create emotion than live and in person. And the biggest missed bucket is video. The video, every parent in here has called your kid before bedtime some point. And you're like, oh, that was a really nice call, it's good to check in with Abigail. But if you video FaceTime your kid, it is a totally different experience. Agreed? It's totally different. Why wouldn't, if we know that, if we know it's live and in person, one-way video to a customer, why wouldn't our first response always be a one-way video? And an email and a text message with the video link contained in, right? That's another way to completely separate yourself, but most people don't. We can't even, to your point, Tony, call them back. We can't do it in a timely fashion.
Hey, will you put the composite back up?
Sure.
I want to say one thing. There's a lot of people out in the crowd that are in our 20 clubs, but I want you to look at the 19.8 our appointment set, okay? Next, you see below that 380, that's 68% of set appointments are kept. That means what they're doing is they're really only putting the appointments into the log that tell you they're going to come in. That's why that number's so high. But the most profound thing that I want you to look at is the one below that is that of those 538 set, you will deliver 193 units. 193 units. That should tell you right there that, man, even at a crappy job of setting appointments at 20%, if I hammer into them to pay attention to the digital traffic log and get in touch with more customers that are reaching out to us, we naturally will sell more units, more side-by-sides, more motorcycles. So, yeah, the numbers are right there. It's crazy.
Yeah. And for years we talk about 20 touches, that a customer goes through 20 touches or engagements with your brand before saying yes. They already want it. All you have to do is speed them up through the 20 touches before they say yes again. What touch am I on by the time I put my hand up, as opposed to 10 years ago, I walked in your store blindly. We got to get through 20 touches or at least 15. And now all of a sudden, maybe Bob jumps up. Now all of a sudden, these customers are far along that process. So when you get the appointment, the chance of you putting a deal together is very strong. What do you got, Bob Key?
So one of your more engaging podcasts of late was a couple of weeks back when you had Matt Grun.
Yes.
And his board member talking about the scorecard.
Yes, sir. Jeff Strong.
Yeah, Jeff. Number one, could you briefly describe the scorecard for the audience? And then can you share with us why the marine industry has been successful in accomplishing that and the power sports industry is nowhere close? What are the obstacles to us doing something similar in the power sports world?
Okay, I'm going to let Tony answer that. Before I do, Sean Delaney just walked out of here. I was going to call him it's all right, Sean, you can go. No, it's good. Scott Fisher in the house. How are you, Scott Fisher? Good to see you. Lead Helm, if you're familiar with that product, that's all these guys do relative to the conversation we just had on lead follow-up. So on the backside of this answer, Scott, if there's anything you wanted to add to the mix, I'd love to hear it from you if you want to jump on the mic. Not trying to put you on the spot, but it's awesome. Mandy, you're here as well. You guys have great data, so please join us if you can. Tony, why don't you handle the scorecard conversation from that podcast?
Yeah, so two-part. That was on GarageCast about 3 or 4 episodes back. And Matt Grun is president of MRA, Marine Retailers Association of America, which is like kind of a show just like this, but on the marine side of life. And they have a lot of good work that they do where they have these breakout task force that go and tackle certain things. And what they wanted to do was they wanted to do scorecarding of dealers for the manufacturers and then the manufacturers of the dealers, which in this world we do a lot of Pied Piper stuff, right? They send you out their thing and it's your turn to just hammer down on the manufacturers, and it's a pretty limited scope of what you're saying. Well, they got together, they got some dealers on the dealer side of life, and then they started to get some manufacturers, and it took a little bit of synergizing to get them to come to the plate, because now you're going to have a manufacturer say, all right, I'm going to be grading Max Matern and his marine dealership down in New Orleans, Louisiana, right? And that took a lot to say for the dealer to say, yeah, okay, I want to be graded. And what they did is it was more than just here, we're going to send out a survey and hammer away. It's a pretty complex matrix, and I think it would involve grading, scoring from 1 to 7. And they have probably, I don't know, what was it, maybe 17 to 21 things that they do, cleanliness of store.
Yeah, and there was some subjective stuff in there.
Yeah.
When they shot that to us for what do we think about it, I was like, I love the idea of the dealers keeping score on the manufacturers, because we're dealer advocates. I want that to happen, but it really is a partnership when it's done right. And I think it's fair to see if the manufacturer wants to keep score on the dealer, right? And have some intelligent, hopefully less emotional conversations about the friction that lives between them. And they sent those to us, and the biggest thing I said was quantify this. It was just subjective. How do you feel about? And I'm like, I don't care how you feel about, show me a number. Show me a metric that I can go off of. And I think they took our advice and plugged in some metrics inside of that. If you remember that podcast, Bob, I asked, what do you think about our ability to get this installed in the powersports industry? And I think it's a bit of a heavier lift, just because of where the marine space is right now. They seem to be very copacetic with each other. They all have to hang out, and I think sometimes it's just a little bit more friction, particularly with the volume of units that you guys do versus the marine space. But I think it's a great, ambitious goal, and I think if anybody could tackle it, I think the MIC would be primed for that.
And I'm just going to take that farther by saying that in the marine space, the conversation about how many boats you need for 2025 goes a little bit more like, well, I was thinking 72, and the manufacturer says, yeah, we're thinking 77, so maybe we're going to meet at 75. That sounds like a good number. It's a lot less contentious. MRAA, it is the dealers hanging out, going to dinner, drinking with the OEMs in the marine space. And I'll say it, it's high time for the manufacturers to decide that they want to do something like this and really truly look at the data of what dealers have to say based off of objective questions, answer these 1 to 7, and we'll grade each other. And then truly the dealers have to be prepared, because listen, we're all not fantastic dealers that decide that they're going to spend their own money to come to this kind of convention and come and check out how you can make your business better. You got to be ready for them to say, hey, listen, I want to let you know your marketing, social media, it sucks. It's a 0, right? So I think it can happen. We just got to have real conversations.
This being the disruptive thinking stage, Tony and I had another idea for what could go on up on the stage. We want to put 5 heads of state from the manufacturers over here and 5 dealers over here, and Tony and I were to be in the middle, and we were going to moderate a session. They didn't like our idea on that one.
I was involving jiu-jitsu as well in that too, so.
We're still working towards that. You guys have anything on scorecards?
No, I do. Just the one thing is that I think that it being reciprocal back and forth would be the most important thing. But I think, again, to reiterate Tony's point, is that everybody's going to have to go into it with an open mind and really be willing to change, to really be able to grow from that rather than just make it even more animosity. That would be my biggest concern, is it would just create more animosity or tension. If everyone went into it with an open mind about how do we make this industry better by holding the dealer accountable and holding the OE accountable, if both parties went into it with that mindset, then I think it would have a phenomenal impact. And I think it'll be a very, very slow rolling ball just to get more and more people bought in on that idea. But I do think it could have some potentially awesome outcome at the end of it if everyone went into it with that open mind.
Yeah. Joe, anything from you? Mandy, did you have anything on Digital Lead follow-up? It's okay if you didn't. There's Mike right behind you if you want it. And then Scott, I'd ask you, Sexy D is back. Sexy D, Sean Delaney's come back, so maybe if you had something to say too.
I was just going to say another thing. Everybody's always focused on speed to lead. I work directly with dealers. Not a sales manager. I'm not, I'm working in the customer realm. But we're so focused on responding to clear it. So I've responded it and I've met my requirement. But we're not good at reading. If somebody says, I prefer text me. We have all these great products. And then the first thing the salesperson does is they call. That's creating, it's like, you're not listening to me.
Right.
Or call me on Saturday, or I'm looking for this. In our industry, there's not a one-size-fits-all customer.
Okay.
So someone like my father's age, he wants an email. But somebody, that's in their 20s, they want to get a text and order it and get out the door. I think we need to focus more on, instead of just getting the lead answered, what is the lead saying? There's so many things. They pre-qualified. They said they want to buy in the next 2 days. Why didn't they close? Why didn't they call us back? Maybe something happened. We need to connect more and just take like a couple minutes and look at that lead and find out what's going on with this person. And I think there's a lot we could pull, and they could get more people back into the store.
I would agree. Thank you for that answer. That's why I love the video. The one-way video, you see my excitement. We set up a two-way video just to get those questions answered, including how would you like to be communicated with? And then we're off to the races on that. Yes, hi.
I'm a huge proponent of video. I've used it in automotive for years. And the automotive CRMs, you can actually run reports to show closing ratio on video versus closing ratio on customers who never sent a video. And the data is
Can you get closer to the mic, please?
Is that better?
Yes.
His hearing's going.
We all get old, it's okay.
I couldn't hear you either.
Let me reiterate what she just said.
I didn't
just
hear
in
it.
case you didn't hear it. She goes, we all get old. It's okay.
True story, we do.
You can stay at the mic all day. You can all day.
Thank you. So I guess my question is, being new in Powersports, is there a CRM provider that you would recommend that does have that feature that allows you to send video from your phone app and allows you to pull reporting showing the lead closing rates?
I'm going to take the first swing at this, and you guys can. You see Tony cringing up here. We don't recommend DMSs. We don't recommend CRMs. What I will tell you personally, what I have seen is a CRM. When you try to get your CRM to do everything, it's like that motorcycle that does nothing very well. It does, and I won't call it out. You know which bike I'm talking about. It'll go off road a little bit, and it'll go on road a little bit, and it'll just. But the CRM to me is a customer relationship management tool. I want it to do that very, very well. And I would rather find another company, and I'm just going to tell you the one we use, that we have nothing with them, we never even talked to them, it's Loom, L-O-O-M. We've been using them for years. Because what it does is you can do a one-way video on your phone, your iPad. It's the easiest thing. We do it internally because we don't have an office and our team is all over the country. So whenever we finish an event, we do a one-way video about here's what happened at the event to keep everybody in the loop. It's so easy. It transcribes your video in real time, and then the sales manager can manage off of that. So you can take the link and embed it in your CRM. Right? So I'd rather take something that's good at what it does and then integrate it into a CRM that's out there.
Was that a no?
It's one more step.
Yeah, I don't have a CRM, and probably be good to talk to everybody out there if there is one. The two that I hear that they're using, and so the answer for me is no. There isn't one that people are saying is fantastic. I have dealers using Connect, one, to send it via text, won't track it beyond Connect. And then Lightspeed has a function as well that, again, dealers, they're not loving the function of it. So does anybody out there have a suggestion of a CRM that you're using that is doing it well?
No suggestion on that. Just kind of like double backing on what you're saying there is, for you, I would use Loom. And there's other ways to integrate them into your CRMs because, again, I'm building a CRM, Revable. It's really hard to get really good at the video piece and get the feedback through to what you guys really actually should be using as a dealership side. Like My Karma is an example of automotive software. You guys send the service videos, etc. But if you want to be good at that piece of it, again, it has to be a pretty big focus. And there's a lot of blocks that you got to get there. So I just wanted to encourage, use Loom or something like that. It's not that expensive to use in terms of video.
Agreed.
They have great reporting. It's all built off that. Put it in the email, put it in text message, whatever. It's not that hard of a platform to learn and use. So, and then use it for your internal trainings as well, so that you get your transcribes of whatever. And I did have one question for you guys that I'm kind of all centered around is video, and you had some stats up there on the appointment set.
Yes.
We have a lot of customers that we talk to, and I haven't heard anybody really doing this. I'm curious to hear from a 20 group management system. Why don't dealers, or why haven't their mindsets shifted to compensating salespeople on some of the micro indicators into the comp plans? There's not a lot of, again, we have hundreds of customers. I haven't heard of a single person saying we pay on appointment shows or setups or anything like that. And if you look at those indicators, obviously they would have to track those in the CRM better. You get better data, you guys get better data. And then also we know that even the bad dealerships of setting up appointments are going to make a lot of money selling those 194 units. So what do we have to do to help dealers get that mindset to like pay on the micros, not just on the transaction of the unit, which is what the sales manager is going, oh shit, I got to sell 100 units this month, and therefore they miss the, well, what if I just set the appointment? What if I do, I can't remember what your framework you just called, format. Like what if I just pay somebody on actually having format done? Well, the indicators are going to lead you in a really good way there. So I'm just curious to hear what you guys think.
I will take that one if you don't mind. I'll start with it and just say that I do think that there are a lot of dealers leaning that way and paying on activities. I think in what we do, I see a lot more with the Harley-Davidson space probably doing that than metric, which I do see coming up more, but I think that it's getting more common now as we talk about it all the time.
Yeah, I think in my experience, we've seen it. It used to be very popular, right? And what we always equate it to is like, well, if I pay you to get first downs, I know you'll score a touchdown, right? Or if I just pay you on the touchdowns, you're just throwing deep bombs to the end zone all day long, hoping they land. So the thought process of paying you for the steps versus paying you for the end result. It was more popular a little while ago. It kind of faded off for a while, and now I see it coming back. The thought process or the philosophy that I have is this, is that we can pay on the end result. However, the onus is then on us to train them and teach them that these are the things that get you there. The other thing that is underlying with pay plans is if you just managed them, right, managed and led appropriately, and you got them to understand that, new guy Jason, this is your job to do these things that will then lead you to here. So two different mindsets, right? Paying for first downs, or if I teach them, coach them, train them on how to progress through the field, then they score touchdowns. Two different thoughts, right? Whether they're coin operated, I just keep shoving coins in them to do these things, or I teach them the entire process, which lands you here. And part of that is the importance of a lead, the importance of contact, the importance of how they want to be contacted. So two different philosophies there, and some dealers do it, pay for first downs. Oh, buddy. What he asked was, do you think it was the COVID era? And I think the COVID era was like that old Etch-a-Sketch we had, where it's just like, it just redid everything. So I do, and I think that there's some normalcy coming back to how we pay, how we manage, and getting people back to doing the basic fundamentals that are their job. Yeah.
Thank you for the questions. Sean, I'm going to finish with you. Thank you for your question as well. Hit us. We got to wrap this thing up, and then we'll answer Sean's question, and then we'll button this thing up.
I didn't have a question, but you called on me a few times, so I thought I'd stand up.
Well, feel free to sit back down.
But I was going to say to her question, the only one I can find is Connect. But if you pulled back up the box with the digital,
sure.
I think a couple things that come up, and I think that gal was saying it over there was, you're only delivering in there at like a 6% delivery. 193 at 29.45 is only 6%. It's a fair amount of leads, but like Tony said, you're only setting 19.8, which actually your benchmark is 19.9. My benchmark is 40. So,
by his benchmark at Lead Helm.
Lead Helm and Thunderbird, whatever. And it's 40, so again, you'd have more, but it would double the amount of deliveries you would get because you're only at 6% right now. If you were at 12%, you'd have 300 and whatever, almost 400 sales. So I think, understanding the traffic log of the digital is super important. And I am here with Lead Helm today, but that's what nobody understands. Tony said, well, 538 sets, and maybe they're just putting the ones that are on there, right? So it's like a greet. What are they putting on there? But in reality, if they would have set 900 appointments and still been at the 24 or 12 delivery 100%. Percentage, it would have changed the game in that store significantly. So, as we see traffic coming down across the dealer network, we see foot traffic coming down, but we still see all these salesmen that are only on the floor, right? But there's stores that don't even have assigned salesmen to digital leads, and they're different. I think that the woman said that. The way they behave is different. You're going to put a salesman that, has been with you a month, has no experience, is going to get a digital lead and it doesn't behave the same as a customer walking through the door. You know, they have different questions, they ask them different ways, they communicate. We find the customer will communicate text to a certain point, then they have to have a phone call because you have to move them on. So if you don't have someone in the store that understands that part of it, and you're just putting your regular salesman handling the digital lead, that's when you get a 6 or a 7% delivery percentage. So I just think that's probably something that what Tony said about understanding the sets, but you got to have the right people working these leads because they're so valuable. So
I would agree. We sit here and talk about you're staffing your showroom floor for X amount of deals. What is your dedicated staff for the digital space? Call them whatever you want, BDCs, digital salespeople.
40% right now, 40% of sales are coming from digital, right, of our total sales. So if we sell 100 bikes, 40 of them are coming from digital.
Okay.
But you have 1 or 2 salesmen doing that while you have, 8 or 9 or 10 doing the walk-ins. So just people putting resources in the right spot.
It's a great point.
Anyway, thank you.
Great point. Thank you, Sean. Guys, we're at the end of the session here. I do want to give you guys one quick chance to plug your sessions because they're really spin-offs of what we've been talking about already. So you want to take a moment and do that?
Yeah, so I'm doing a session this afternoon over at the Dealer Excellence stage. It's on capitalizing on every customer coming through the parts department, completely void of driving more traffic. How do we actually do better with the traffic we have?
And I will be doing one right before Schoolie, talking about breaking the cycle, but basically what we're talking about is sticking to processes, following up, and kind of what you were saying a little bit about holding people accountable.
Tomorrow, 10:15, I'll be doing a session on maximizing your opportunities through the use of video. It's a very basic class on how to teach your people how to shoot a video to send out from all departments, sales, parts and accessories, and the service department. So that's at 10:15 tomorrow.
And then my session right behind Tony's tomorrow is called Look Inside. And it's just, I'll end it where we started with some weird feelings about this year in particular. And, the tariff shenanigans, I'm going to call them, that are going on. Like, what is that going to do for everybody? And we're going to be up and down over last year, whatever happens to be. And my whole thing is, what if you had no more transactions, no more door swings, no more digital leads than you had last year? If you had exactly last year, how do we maximize the results with the opportunities that we had last year if you had nothing more coming in the front door? So we're going to take it department by department and look at how do we actually put the same units or the same indicators into more revenue and a better customer experience. So on behalf of Garage Composites, thank you guys for coming. We really appreciate you and enjoy the AIMExpo. Thank you.